part 7 of Max's broken heart story. So I get transferred to the SDU via ambulance. It's about 5 o'clock in the morning at this point. And my mom flies in from Texas, and my husband picks her up and takes her to the hospital. And then he goes home to go to sleep and take care of the kids. I was in the SDU. The SDU is called the Special Delivery Unit. It is very small. There are 3 rooms and a operating room and a resuscitation room. And it's white walls, very clinical, no windows. You kind of feel like you're in a dungeon. And it is kind of like an ICU for pregnant patients. It's not, you don't just go in there just to get care or to hang out, which a doctor kindly informed me after 4 days in the SDU that I was not supposed to be in there because it is a place for action and not for waiting. Well, that was not very appropriate for her to tell me. That's definitely something that has to do with office politics and has absolutely nothing to do with me, because I was exactly where I was told to be and exactly where I was taken. After a couple days after that, they end up moving me to the women's health floor. And I stay admitted there because I'm continually having contractions. The contractions never stopped. So at 32 weeks, I started contractions, and they did not stop until I gave birth at 36 weeks. So for 4 weeks, I had intense labor contractions. Why? Well, I had something called polyhydramnios, which was an excess of amniotic fluid, and it only continued to build and build and build while I was pregnant, which meant that my belly, my uterus, was stretched thin like a water balloon. Keep filling it up, and it gets really thin. And when you tap on one side of it, the whole thing vibrates, right? That's exactly how it was in my uterus. A tiny little contraction had an effect of like waves, all through my belly, all through my back, all through my hips, all through my pelvis area, like my pelvic area. It was all just painful and heavy. I was getting so big. Like my nose got super swollen, my face got super swollen. I couldn't see out of my my left eye. I had chubby, nubbed fingers. My feet were super swollen. I mean, I was miserable, and I did not look or feel like my normal self. I am sure that I'm missing some details from diagnosis to this point, and maybe I'll go back and find out what those were. But my maternal fetal medicine doctor did not want to discharge me unless I had a place nearby, like within 20 minutes of the hospital, because I was already going through early preterm labor, and though it had stalled, it could pick up at any moment. They had given me so much magnesium sulfate the first couple of days that I actually ended up overdosing on it. One of the ways that they can tell if you're getting too much is by checking your reflexes. They checked my left foot and it wouldn't respond at all, and my right foot was very slow at responding. So they had to take it off immediately. Magnesium sulfate makes you feel like you are boiling from the inside out. And I mean that, like that's what it feels like. You don't feel hot on the outside, it's all on the inside, and it makes you so sick. So they end up having to take me off of that. I don't know why my phone is lagging. So I stay on the women's health floor until we were able to get a room at Ronald McDonald House. Ronald McDonald House had only taken on a few pregnant patients up to this point. I know for a long time they didn't take any pregnant women as patients or as, the reason for being at Ronald McDonald House because of the liability, but because they were so close, to the hospital and had transport to the hospital, and there was this whole thing. Like if something happened and you needed to go, you called 911 and transport would come get you, and it was like a 5-minute walk. So my doctor felt comfortable discharging me after I got a room. I was in the hospital for almost 2 weeks at that point, so we went and moved into we moved into Ronald McDonald House on April 4th on my son's birthday. And then I had I had twice weekly appointments. I had non-stress tests and echoes, along with just like normal OBGYN appointments as well, every week. And I stayed there for, April 4th is when, so I had to go in a couple of times for intense contractions that changed, because they kept telling me to go in whenever anything changes, I went in for anything that changed. The one doctor that had already given me a hard time on the phone previously that one time, and the one it's the same doctor that told me that I was taking up a room in the SDU, that was for action and not for waiting. She is also the same doctor that came in when I was experiencing a change, like in the intensity and the contractions, and she told me, well, you're just going to be one of those parents or one of those moms that contracts all the time, and it's never going to go anywhere until, you're at like 39 weeks. And I'm like, well, that's definitely not me. That's not true at all, but I know that pregnancies are different. And she's like, you're supposed to come in when there's big changes, and I'm like, well, I don't know when that is. And again, she says, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know when you're supposed to come in. And I cannot believe she said that twice to me. That's how I knew it was the same person that I talked to on the phone before. She came in with a nurse, and I was feeling very overwhelmed because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Here they were making me feel like a burden, like I shouldn't have come in. But I was doing exactly what my doctor told me to do, and came in when I was having a change. And so they were like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay here? Do you want to get admitted? Do you want to go home? Like, what do you want to do? And I was feeling very overwhelmed and scared. And so I start crying, and the nurse like kind of taps my foot and was like, you don't need to cry about this. You shouldn't be crying. Like, this is not something to cry over. And I was so angry at that point. And I told her, I'm allowed to cry. I'm pregnant. I'm high risk. My son's high risk. This is a very stressful situation. And even if I wasn't those things, I'm pregnant and I'm allowed to cry. And then from that point on, for the rest of the appointment, I just didn't say anything else. My husband kindly asked them to leave. And I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to be here. They make me not want to come in at all the next time. But I have to. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't want to be treated like this. But I also can't go home. We end up leaving, and 2 days later, I end up having to go back in. Okay, I go in because something feels off. That's legitimately what I said. And I know it doesn't sound like a very specific thing to say to a doctor when you go in, but that's legitimately how I felt. I felt so off, and I couldn't explain anything. I had this really mild headache, and I was feeling, weak, but I was just like, something feels off and I need to go in. So I go in, they do a urine test, they check my blood pressure, and I am diagnosed with preeclampsia. Go ahead and go to part 8.